Monday, July 29. Can you hear a whisper above a shout? Read Mark chapter 5, verses 1 to 20. What can we learn about the great controversy from this amazing account, and again about the power of Jesus? Mark 5, beginning at verse 1. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him any more, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. If the night before the lake was unforgettable, the arrival at the Gadarenes the next morning was just as impressive. The history of the demon-possessed man is laid out in heartbreaking detail. Breaking away from all constraint, he lived in the tombs and cut himself with stones. No one had the strength to subdue him, it says in Mark 5, verse 4 in the ESV. And then he met Jesus. The man rushed to Jesus. No word about the disciples. They probably ran off. When the man came near to Jesus, he fell down before him. The words "fell down" translate the Greek verb proskuneo, usually translated to worship. It seems the man recognized that Jesus was someone who could help him. But when he opened his mouth, the demons inside him shouted at Jesus, who could hear the man's whispered plea for help above the demons' shouts. When they asked to be released into a herd of pigs, Jesus permitted them to enter the pigs. The entire herd, about 2,000, rushed down the embankment and drowned in the water. It was a financial disaster for the owners. What's amazing is that the demons knew exactly who Jesus was, and they also knew their impotence before him, which was why they begged him twice in verses 10 and 12 to do what they asked. Verse 12 read, "The demons begged Jesus, 'Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them.' But in verse 10 before that they had said, and he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. Obviously, they knew his power over them. This story has two overriding characteristics. First, It is filled with the items of uncleanness or ceremonial defilement according to Old Testament law. Tombs and the dead were unclean. As we read in Numbers 19, verse 11, whoever touches a human corpse will be unclean for 7 days. And verse 16, anyone out in the open who touches someone who has been killed with a sword, or someone who has died a natural death, or anyone who touches a human bone or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. Bleeding made one unclean, as we read in Leviticus 15. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when any man has an unusual bodily discharge, such a discharge is unclean. Whether it continues flowing from his body or is blocked, it will make him unclean. This is how his discharge will bring about uncleanness." And then we go down further. Whoever touches the man who has a discharge must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening, verse 7. And then we go down further. A clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wooden article is to be rinsed with water in verse 12. And then we come down to verse 19. When a woman has her regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. Pigs were unclean, as you read in Leviticus 11 and verse 7. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. But second, overarching this litany of defilement is the back-and-forth battle between good and evil forces. Jesus drives out the demons, 2 points for Jesus. The demons kill the pigs, 2 points for Satan. The townspeople ask Jesus to leave, 2 points for Satan. But Jesus sends back the healed man as his witness, 3 points for Jesus. In some ways, this man was the unlikeliest missionary, but he definitely had an amazing story to tell. And so to finish the day, what hope can you draw from this story about the power of Jesus to help you in whatever you are struggling with?
This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.